What's up, guys? My name is Joseph, and today I'm going to be taking y'all to the roof. Welcome to the roof. Today, we are going to be looking at my top 20 movies of 2024. Right on time. Not even a little bit late. No, obviously, I am about a month late. It's already almost February of 2025. Honestly, I just wanted to have the chance to see as many movies that I thought could end up on the list as possible. Hopefully, this is still something that interests people. These are all the movies that I have not had a chance to see yet. A lot of these probably would have made this list if I had seen them, but I would love if you left a comment below to tell me if you've seen them and what you thought of them. I was debating how I wanted to do this video, because part of me was like, should I just talk about every movie I saw in 2024? But that felt a little bit extra, and then I was like, well, there really are a lot of movies that didn't make the top 20 that I want to highlight. So, after every 4 movies that are actually in the top 20, we'll have a little honorable mentions kind of break just to talk about some group of movies that I think are notable for one reason or another. I guess one more thing that is important to say, but in most cases, I've only seen these movies one time, and it's pretty much impossible to get an actual holistic, complete judgment and view and opinion on a movie after only seeing it once. There's so many details that you can only really capture when you know what the movie is about. So I kind of just wanted to say that up front. Like, these are opinions I have after a single viewing. So don't take anything I say too seriously. This is really just pure entertainment and to talk about movies that I like. And if you disagree, again, please leave a comment. I would love to hear what you guys think. Without further ado, let's get into the first batch of honorable mentions. These are movies that, while they did not make my top 20, are still really fun. Put them on with your friends, with your family, to kill a couple of hours, maybe take a little lesson, have some fun with. So, for the honest recommendations, we have Strange Darling, which was a pretty fun, thriller, horror, with some non-linear storytelling, with some interesting twists, shot really well. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. You cared about the characters. There were good action, good set pieces, good effects. It was just a well-made blockbuster. Next up, we have Beetlejuice. I got some flack for this within my friend group because I think when I first saw it, I said I liked it more than the original, which I know is a hot take. And I've since switched. I think the original is better. But regardless, it was a fun movie, and I like the effects. Problemista, I thought it was really clever. I thought it was well written. I liked a lot of the character stuff, but I didn't find it that funny. It's a comedy, but it didn't make me laugh that much. But I know that some people thought it was hilarious. Love Lies Bleeding, similar to Problemista. I like some of the character stuff. I think it's pretty funny. I think there's some good romance. It's very campy, obviously, but the script was a little whack. But still, definitely a good time. And with that, let's hop into the actual top 20 list. At number 20, we have Saturday Night. With this one, it really just comes down to, I guess, the writing and the directing, the acting, and the editing. So a lot of things. This is a great movie. It's obviously pretty dramatized and made to be extra because it's a movie. I hope that made sense. But it really was immersive, infatuating. The first half hour when you're just following around in what feels like this one take where you're basically just in real time having all these conversations, seeing how everything is updating, the pressure that's on, all the different opinions, having to see these people fight for their dream that we know ends up being insanely successful. But at the time, a lot of people were like, this is stupid. How do you expect this to go anywhere? It was so intoxicating the whole time. It's really engaging. For that reason alone, it makes my top 20 because it was one of the most memorable movie watching experiences I've had all year. At number 19, I have Civil War. This one I brought up in a video before because the director has a new movie coming out this year, 2025. And when I brought it up, I kind of mentioned how this movie was a little divisive, and it came down mostly to the marketing and to the political side of things. I mean, the marketing one kind of makes sense. It was marketed as a very action-heavy movie, and it ended up being kind of a slower, dramatic character study. So I can kind of get that. And then the political side of things, I never really got why people thought this movie was taking a stance, because the whole conflict is most of the United States versus California and Texas. I feel like they literally did that on purpose to say this is not based on current, contemporary American politics. All this movie was a dramatic character study on combat journalists and the trauma and the trauma responses and the way they deal with their emotions and why they do it and why having to do it on home soil makes it all feel so hypocritical and pointless. That's what this movie was, and I thought it did that very well. I really connected with the characters. I thought they were well written, well acted. They felt very real. The action scenes that were in it were amazing, and like that scene with Jesse Plemons, like one of the standouts of the entire year. Like, he does such a great job at making you hate him. Like, he's so evil, and like my toes were curling. Like, I was literally mad after that scene. And then honestly, it's also just pretty thematically interesting. Like, it doesn't really tie anything up in a neat bow and say like, well, this is what you should take away from this. It presents a lot of different ideas. I just really got a lot out of this movie, and I was surprised to see that so many people thought it was boring or like political and dangerous or something. Moving on, at number 18 we have Babes. I think the only true comedy on my list. I guess I'll find out as I keep going. I can't remember exactly, but this movie was like absolutely hilarious. This was the hardest I've laughed in a movie theater in a really long time. Like, it the entire way through just had jokes that landed and really landed, like not like a little like, oh yeah, that was funny. Like, genuinely, like belly laughing. Like, you're sitting there in the theater, like out loud, like bursting out into laughter because their delivery and their lines and the callbacks. It's just a very, very well-made comedy. There's excellent chemistry between the two main actors. All of the side characters are really like well realized. Like, they fit into the tone and into the world really well. I guess the reason this one is lower for as funny as it was is it unfortunately only really nailed the comedy. The more emotional, like heartfelt moments almost always like took me out of the movie because they were very formulaic and very like cheesy, like very cheesy. But like, again, that's really like such a minor thing. Like, this was a fantastic movie. Highly recommend. Super funny. And at number 17, we have Wicked. Maybe people would say it's a little long, it's a little bloated, it's a little like loose in terms of its themes or story or whatever. I don't know. I had a blast. The music was like heart racing and beautiful, and they sounded great when they sang. It looked really pretty. Like, the production design and the costume design and the effects all blended together really well. Ariana Grande's character was hilarious. Definitely my favorite character of the movie. She was written really well, and Ariana Grande just like nailed that energy and that performance that she's supposed to go for this kind of like vapid, shallow, like self-interested person that isn't a bad person, but they are just vapid, shallow, and self-interested. Cynthia Erivo, I thought, nailed her performance. I felt really attached to her character. Plane. Some interesting like side plots and world building elements. Now we're going into the second batch of honorable mentions. Right off the bat, it seems kind of counterintuitive to have honorable mentions that are called the mid-offs. That seems more like a dishonorable mention, and to be honest, it's a little bit of that. I mean, these movies are still good, but I kind of just wanted to talk about them because I like being opinionated, and this is my video. So, for these mid-offs, we have Maxine, The Fall Guy, Thelma, Hitman, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Maxine was honestly just a disappointing closeout to the series. It wasn't bad. A lot of people said it was bad. I didn't think it was bad. I just thought it was a little boring and a little, like, didn't go anywhere. Like, it was just, like, random. Like, things were just happening. But there was still some entertaining stuff. Like, some of the cinematography and vibes were pretty cool. I thought some of the, like, gore was, like, fairly interesting. The whole, like, kind of, like, camcorder footage, I thought was honestly pretty freaky. And I also really liked that detective guy who was, like, really good at finding Maxine, but bad at actually scaring her. The Fall Guy, the 3.5-star movie. Like, it's fun. It's fun. That's The Fall Guy. It's fun. Next up, we have Thelma. I think I might get some flack for this because I think a lot of people really liked Thelma. It was sweet. It was heartfelt. It was also very basic. I have a hard time giving credit to a movie just for not doing anything wrong. Like, this is a movie you've seen before, but they were just like, but what if the main star was in her 90s? Which, like, yeah, that works for a movie, but it's still very formulaic. Damn. Now I feel like I'm kind of being a hater here, realizing how I'm talking about these movies, but you know what? Again, these are the mid-offs, so leave a comment if you have a problem. Hitman could almost have gone into the honest recommendations one, because this one is probably my favorite movie out of this bunch. I just think, like, the chemistry between the two leads is, like it's there. Like, it's really there. Like, some of the scenes in this movie are, like, pretty hot, honestly. Some interesting character stuff, kind of. Deadpool and Wolverine, it's just Marvel syndrome, bro. How am I supposed to care about the entire multiverse potentially exploding again? They genuinely don't understand that you can have stakes for these movies that are character related and that matter to this specific plot and this specific movie, and don't have to be like the entire multiverse will be destroyed, and if we don't do something that doesn't actually make any sense, then we're all gonna die. Like, I just don't care. And it also, like, it's the same jokes. This is tired, man. Like, it's fine. Again, like, it's fine. But that's why it's in the mid-offs, because it's just fine. Hopping back into the actual top 20, at number 16, we have A Different Man. It's a movie that feels very layered, and I kind of recognized that after finishing watching it. I was like, this is a movie that's saying a lot, that is grappling a lot of different things, and it does feel like the kind of movie that is more than the sum of its parts. I'm fully acknowledging and admitting that I don't actually, like, have a fully formed opinion, but after finishing, I just really liked a lot of what it was doing. I thought it was very original, very well acted. It's dealing with physical disfiguration and body image. It's dealing with mental self-image. It's dealing with relationships. It's dealing with not being able to process your emotions or other people's emotions and then spiraling because of it because you don't understand them or yourself. Victimizing yourself, like creating your own prisons, and even at the end, kind of like neurosis and psychosis. That's a little bit looser because I feel like the movie kind of just goes off the rails at the end and becomes very like A24 weird in a way where it's just like doing stuff to do stuff. That sounds bad. It's not doing stuff just to do stuff, but it's doing stuff that, like, again, like, I don't understand all of these layers. So it was just like there was a lot that was kind of like boom, 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 boom. But still, overall, like, the fact that I can be so confused by it and yet still be thinking about it so much, this is a very good movie, so it deserves this spot on the list. And at number 15, we have Furiosa, a Mad Max story. I genuinely don't understand how this one flopped so hard. This was a great movie. This was one of the best action movies, like, of the whole year. The set pieces and the action were all really exciting and immersive. I know a lot of people talked about the effects looking bad. I literally never once saw that. Just going back to the set pieces, like, they were original. They didn't just redo stuff from Mad Max. They had all these new ideas, and, like, the world building was so good in this. The characters were fleshed out more. Like, the story in this was really good. It had awesome kind of, like, lore. Like, it felt really, like, mythical. Again, the characters in this are really just, like, weird and bizarre and quirky, and, like, I love the choices that they made for them. I thought Dementis, I'm pretty sure that's Chris Hemsworth's character's name, he was really, like, fun and crazy and wacky, but it wasn't just like, oh, it's goofy Chris Hemsworth again. Like, he had depth to a degree, like, not like a very, like, deep thinking character, but he was layered. Yeah, I really didn't get how this one flopped so hard. At number 14, we have The Substance. This movie has been talked about to oblivion. There's really nothing I can say that hasn't already been said, but let me add my 2 cents anyways, because I really liked this movie. This movie was just ridiculously well directed. The tone and the emotion and the viscerality of this film is all just, like, dialed up to 11 by the way that it's shot, with these crazy, like, wide angle close-ups and the ridiculous sound design, like when he's eating the shrimp and it's just like this kind of like reverbed, like, booming, and the practical effects were amazing. The music was amazing. The way everything looks, like the color and the not chaotic, but the very, like, movement, the kinetic energy of all of the shots and the pacing. And it's such an interesting movie because it has almost no dialogue, and yet it's still, I think it just got nominated for script at the Oscars, which makes sense because, like, script isn't just dialogue. It's also like, well, what's the plot? Like, what's actually happening in that script? And it's a really fun, unique, original script. Like, this is just, like, the kind of movie that we're so lucky to be able to get. Yeah, it just appeals to all of your senses. Well, not appeals because it's gross, but it engages with all of your senses and rewards you for paying attention with your eyes and your ears. It's really well acted too. Demi Moore was awesome. Margaret Qualley was awesome. It's just a really beautiful movie. At number 13, we have Dee Dee. I love a directorial debut, and this was a fantastic directorial debut. Sean Wang just knows how to craft a movie. Like, it was so amazing. He knows how to direct and get the emotional core out of his characters and really make them feel real and imperfect. And I just thought he did an amazing job nailing the emotional state of not only that age, but of being that age in that specific era of, like, kind of early internet, like, the sense of humor and, like, what people thought was cool and what made them cool or not cool and how they tried to present themselves. It's also a lot more grounded than, like, a lot of coming-of-age films. It's formulaic, but it doesn't feel formulaic. It felt very organic, very sad. Like, other than humor, I would say sadness is probably that second main emotion of the entire film. Like, the main character being, like, not a great son or a great person. Not like he's not a bad person, but he's a kid, and he, like, makes mistakes and he's immature. How the grandma speaks to the mom, and the mom's relationship with the children, and the son or the brother with the sister, and him with his friends, like everything. It's just a really like sad, affecting, but still funny, sweet, heartwarming film. Just really well made. Also, the main actor, he was fantastic. I can't wait to see what he does next. All right, now we got the third batch of honorable mentions, which I'm titling Don't You Love Silence? Everything quiet, but it's a pretty self-explanatory title. These are movies that all have merit, that all are really well made, say important things, are technically well crafted. Just for one reason or another, they didn't personally land with me very well. And as much as I can appreciate them, I can't say that I really loved them. The movies that are on this honorable mention segment are Kinds of Kindness, Queer, I Saw the TV Glow, Nosferatu, and All We Imagine as Light. Kinds of Kindness was just a little too weird, a little too boring, a little too long. There was a lot of stuff that I thought was interesting, was funny, was fresh. There was a lot more stuff that I thought was doing absolutely nothing for me. Queer was almost the opposite, where it's actually, I like it more than I appreciate it, kind of, because it's normally the kind of movie I would hate. It's really slow, it's really random and abstract, and stuff just kind of happens very loosely. For some reason, though, it really worked for me. But also at the same time, it's like not a movie that I would really be that interested in rewatching. And also, Daniel Craig is not that sympathetic of a character, to be honest. Not nearly as sympathetic as I think he was meant to come off. The other thing with Queer is that the score is just so good. Like, there's this one motif that just plays probably like a dozen times or more throughout the movie, and literally every time it just like perfectly got me in the emotional state that the movie wanted me to be in. I Saw the TV Glow is really high on my list of movies that I want to rewatch so badly. This movie was like the perfect example of I appreciate more than I like when I first saw it. But the problem was I genuinely did not understand the trans allegory on a first watch. I just thought it was like, basically was only a story about like, well, is this reality real, or are we actually these characters? And there was a lot that I found very interesting in that, but I was just a little stuck because I felt like it kind of towed the line between like, I think I was just frustrated because it didn't make anything clear enough for me. And I left the movie feeling like it didn't go one way or the other enough. It just like all felt a little too loose. And then the other main problem that I had with it, I really have a hard time with very like monotone, muted, passive characters when they like never evolve past that. And again, looking back, knowing what this movie's about, like it makes perfect sense now, which is a big reason I want to rewatch it. But it was like not understanding that the first time and not getting why he's just like not sure which way. Like I was just like, bro, come on. But obviously knowing now, like that changes things. Really well shot. Love the soundtrack and the music. Very interesting like atmosphere and kind of vibe that it's able to create. I think that was done well. Nosferatu is like just so fine. Like literally I can't even talk about this. I have nothing to say about this movie. Like it's well made. It's so like nothing. It's a nothing movie. And I feel so weird because I feel like it's a well-made movie that's like, but it's just like not like, or it is, but it's just like, well, okay, whatever. Like that's all you brought. Robert Eggers was just a well-made movie. Like that's boring as hell. Like nothing changed in the story, but it's also like, well, he loved the story, so he wouldn't change it. But I'm just like, I don't know. It literally did nothing for me. And I also have to say, I thought that some of the acting was like melodramatic in a bad way. Like took you out of the movie because you didn't believe that these were actual characters. They just felt like people acting badly. Sorry, Aaron Taylor Johnson, but you were not good in Nosferatu. All We Imagine as Light, probably my favorite movie out of this group. It almost made it into a different segment of honorable mentions that I'll get to later. But this was one where it really just came down to the pacing for me. The story is really good. The themes are really good. It kind of just falls victim to boring drama syndrome, which sounds really mean, but it's just like, you know, those kind of movies where it's like very slow paced, very introspective. The main character is usually a very quiet, very like subtle, reserved person who doesn't really talk about what they're feeling and doesn't want to change up a whole lot. And it's a great kind of character to show societal themes through, but it's just not the most engaging to watch. Number 12 is a movie called Ghostlight. Very similar to DD in a lot of ways. It's a sad family drama dealing with emotions or lack of being able to handle your emotions. It was another well-directed, well-acted, well-written movie that felt original and felt organic despite being formulaic. Love a movie where a dad has to learn to accept his emotions and talk to his family. I think that's a great message that many people need to hear. It's also a film that is like about the importance of art and the healing power of art and how it can bring you out of your shell and get you in touch with your emotions and move past things and learn. And at number 11, we have Nickel Boys. I realized in my review, I watched it again. I was a lot more pessimistic about this movie than I meant to come off. So I apologize, because I clearly, as you can see, I really, really, really liked this movie. I thought it was excellently made. Just for some reason, I decided to only harp on the stuff that didn't work. So let me use this chance to talk about what I really liked about this film. First off, I guess, this is another one I really want to rewatch. I think, like, knowing what the experience is like going in a second time would help a lot. But, I mean, for one, in my review, again, all I talked about was how the presentation was challenging. I never talked about how beautiful some of this cinematography is, like, genuinely gorgeous. The color, everything just feels so, like, warm and, like, tangible, and it just creates a mood strictly from like the color and the cinematography. The story is super important. I thought it was very well acted. I love the big, bold swing that the director took to make this whole movie in first person, basically. Like, that's so unique and interesting, and I hope that it inspires people to do similar big swings. At number 10, we have Juror Number 2, the newest movie by Clint Eastwood. The fact that he is still making movies at his age, I believe he's 90-something now, is remarkable. It's incredible. It's like awe-inspiring. In terms of the movie itself, Juror Number 2, honestly, it's just a movie that like fully lives up to its potential as a concept and as a plot idea. Like, light spoilers, but this is a movie where basically a person who's a juror on a trial finds out he's actually the one who murdered the victim, which is a really awesome concept. Like, that in and of itself is already, like, if you do that concept well, you're going to have a pretty awesome movie. And this movie, it just like handles that subject matter perfectly. I mean, the cast is awesome. Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette are the two big standouts in my head. Oh, and honestly, J.K. Simmons as well, even though he has a smaller role, I thought was awesome. But really, all of the side characters, like all the other jurors, I thought were really fantastic. This is well directed. It has super like consistent, cohesive emotion and like an atmosphere the whole way through. I love the way that new information is revealed. It's just like this fun mystery that, even though you know like the big thing, there's a lot of other things that kind of have to unfold and things that change the way the character thinks and what he's prioritizing and what he's motivated by, and makes you think, makes you ask questions. It's a movie that you can debate. At number 9, we have La Chimera, a really weird movie that, again, I would love to rewatch. It's weird because it's like kind of boring, and yet all of a sudden you're just like really wrapped up in this world. Like, it's again a movie that I might normally like think I would hate because it kind of feels random and not a whole lot happens and it's hard to figure out exactly what the plot is. But for some reason, it just doesn't matter. This is just the way this movie's directed, the feeling that it gives you. It makes you realize this isn't a movie that's about like the plot per se. There's kind of like this saying or this feeling that like everything has been done before, like everything's already been made. Like, whatever piece of art you think about making, someone's already done it. This is the kind of movie that you show to the people who say that, to say like, no, not everything has been made. Because you could take this exact same story and this exact same plot and make it 100 different times, and you'd still never come out with this movie, because this movie is combining so many different like elements of storytelling and of movie making and of art in general to just create a completely unique movie and viewing experience. It's abstract, it's playful, it's metaphorical, it's atmospheric, it's moody, it's sort of seductive, and it uses like weird fun editing tricks. It like speeds up the camera, and there's this through line with this red string in his dreams. It's so hard to describe, but really entertaining and engaging, and kind of like opened my mind to like what you can make as a movie. It really just creates an entirely different world for you to live within and to like learn the rules of and feel how people in that world feel. Now we're going into our fourth batch of honorable mentions, which I am entitling and it's just Megalopolis. What can I say about Megalopolis? Megalopolis. Grace Vanderwaal. Grace Vanderwaal. Megalopolis, Grace Vanderwaal. Megalopolis, what do you think of this boner I got? Megalopolis, incest. Megalopolis, really sad when you think about what actually happened, that it's just this kind of senile old director pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into this movie,
feeling like it's this magnum opus important piece of artwork that actually is kind of just a train wreck. But at the same time, as sad as that is, it's also one of the most original and unique viewing experiences you'll ever have, so it almost has merit in that way as a very one-of-a-kind piece of art.
Megalopolis, Grace Vanderwaal has clones and is being auctioned off as a virgin. Megalopolis, you should get drunk and watch this movie. Please. Megalopolis, I might get drunk and watch this movie. Megalopolis. Seriously, this isn't even a movie. I don't think you can even call this a movie. It's something you can watch. Megalopolis, one of the worst movies I've ever seen because it barely holds together as a movie, and yet Megalopolis, one of the most rewarding viewing experiences of the entire year. Megalopolis. And at number 8, we have A Real Pain. Again, this is just another movie that is really well made and fully lives up to its potential. Like, the idea behind the plot is already like a good starting point, and it just fully like fills those shoes. I mean, the actors that they got for these roles, obviously Jesse Eisenberg wrote a role for himself, but they did a fantastic job. They fully understood the material and their characters, and they felt very real but exaggerated, but in a larger than life kind of way that is really like fun to watch. Like, they feel real, but they feel more than real almost. I hope Kieran Culkin gets that Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, because I think he just nails the energy of his character. So why is this movie so high? It really just comes down to, you don't get movies with scripts this good that often. Purely almost because of the dialogue. Like, this is just one of those scripts where, like, the dialogue, the way the characters respond is so, like, snappy and witty, and every single line that they say is, like, perfectly, like, builds their character. Like, they're not, nothing is just, like, coasting or, like, I can chill out. Like, nah, he keeps it coming every single line. Like, it's just so fantastic to watch and so inspiring to watch. At number 7, we have The Wild Robot. I loved this movie so much. This is for sure the most I've cried to a film maybe ever. There were at least 4 and probably more different moments in this movie where I was like crying for the entire scene. It's a little weird this one is as high up as it is, because it's a very simple story. Like, very simple story. And it's also, I didn't love the third act. I felt like the third act was kind of like producer notey, where it's like, this is a very lovely, heartfelt story about like environmentalism and making friends. Why are we getting into a whole like robot battle? Like, that literally just felt like some and I know these are from books, so maybe that's how it goes in the book, in which case, like, I'll like shut up. But it just felt like the producers were like, we need something for the kids to stay engaged and like so we can sell some toys. Like, what do we got? Some dude's like, well, we have nice robot. What if we had evil robot, and evil robot fought animals? I don't know. It just felt very like obvious and not within the world. It's a kid's movie. I get that. I don't think that should be like a reason to lower the bar. Regardless, why am I hating on this movie? I loved it. The reason it is so high up is genuinely just because of how, like, for as simple as it is, it's how well everything was done. First off, obviously, the animation is beautiful. There were genuinely so many different sequences and scenes in this film that were just like breathtaking and like awesome. And the writing, though really basic, is really good. It was really weird because the characters, like, almost always, especially the side characters, would say like very obvious things, and yet they're always like so right, if that makes sense. Like, it's like what a kid should hear. It was like the older, wiser goose guy. He would say these lines that are like very cliche, but they're just like so well said and delivered so honestly that you buy them, and it adds to the heart of the film, and it made me feel a lot. And that really ultimately is what it comes down to, is it made me feel more than almost any other movie that came out this year. And at number 6, we have Conclave. This is just a very well written, very well acted movie with a fantastic score. I love the kind of nature of it being almost like a political intrigue, where there's all these different conversations happening behind closed door and people making secret moves but having to act like they're not, and changing sides and changing angles and picking the lesser of two evils. I love a movie like that, and this movie did that really well. I also love a movie that kind of calls out the hypocrisy of organized religion, specifically Catholicism. Basically, how all these people that are literally going for the Pope are all not perfectly holy people, or sometimes even good people. I also really loved the way that information continued to be revealed. I love all the different twists, but it's just a very interesting plot. Like, there's just a lot of things that happen that change the way you see things and the way you see characters, and that make you think. At number 5, we have Anora. Where do I start with this one? Honestly, it's just gotta be Sean Baker has got that directing sauce. Like, he just has it. He just has that, like, secret ingredient that you can't describe, that you can't put into words. And yet when you see a movie of his, it just has this feel that feels realer than real. There's just something so, like, connecting and immersive about the way that he directs, the way his characters deliver their lines, the lines that they say. I genuinely don't know how to describe the tone and the emotion and the atmosphere that he creates, but there is something, like, there's a word I'm looking for. Je ne sais quoi. I looked it up. I figured it out. His directing style is je ne sais quoi. I hope I used that right. That's kind of a bit, but that's really the best way that I can describe it. It's just, there's something about it. So why isn't this movie a little higher up? It really just comes down to, I was sad that it didn't get crazier than it did. This is a movie where once you hear the plot concept, you can pretty easily imagine what might happen. Like, oh, a sex worker gets with this spoiled Russian oligarch billionaire son. What could happen? And it pretty much unfolds exactly like you would expect. Like, oh, so he doesn't actually want to stay with her once his parents pressure him, and then she's just left back where she started. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I was like, he's one of our greatest directors, and I thought maybe, I don't know, just something like larger than life would happen, and nothing larger than life really happened other than the largeness of being a billionaire and living that life. Right now, we are going to go into the final batch of honorable mentions, which I'm just calling These are the movies that almost made the top 20, just barely missed out. I get that it's kind of funny and maybe anticlimactic to do the 25th through 21st favorite movies right before going into the top 4, but it made sense in my head when I wrote this. Even though they didn't make the top 20, honestly, on a different day, pretty much any of them could have, because my opinions on movies shift when I think about them. And these movies are Evil Does Not Exist, Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person, Monkey Man, Long Legs, and Flow. Evil Does Not Exist was a very meditative, quiet, beautifully shot, beautifully directed, beautifully acted film. It was a little confusing for me, which is why I didn't put it on in the top 20, because it was kind of hard for me to grasp what it was saying, and it wasn't one that I felt like super inclined to like really dig into. But regardless, this is a fantastic movie about like environmentalism and capitalism and how greed or even just ignorance can ruin ecosystems and ruin lives. Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person, long ass title. This movie was really charming, really sweet, really cute. It was funny, a little formulaic. It was just like, again, it's just like such a charming film. Like, it's really cute. You love the characters, you feel for them. Monkey Man was one that got better on a rewatch. I've seen this one twice. I remember the first time thinking it was a little bit long and a little bit slow, and then the second time I didn't feel that way at all. I thought the level of action was great and exciting, and it was like shot well. But honestly, the reason that this movie shot up on a rewatch was because of its like thematic relevance. It is a very, I don't know about heavy, but like it's a movie that says a lot, that like really says a lot, and like is focused on that. Like, it's not just like this kind of like subtextual thing. Like, it's like the main driving force of the movie, and like the antagonist is like political corruption and like religious corruption, I guess. It's just a movie about corruption and about like trying to fight your way against that when you're a nobody, basically. Yeah, it's just like a well-made revenge plot, love Dev Patel, and of course, the story of him basically having to make this movie for himself because no studio was willing to give him a leading role in an action film. And the fact that he made an action movie this good, like, that's beautiful. Long Legs, one of my favorite horror movies in recent years. Not like some all-timer, but genuinely the atmosphere, the cinematography, and for the most part, the story were all very like exciting and kept you engaged. The third act was a little bit loose and a little bit expositional, but really it just comes down to like the atmosphere. Like, this movie was able to scare me, you know? Like, it's hard for a horror movie to actually be scary, and this movie pulled that off. Flow is one that like really could have made it into the top 20 because it was just so enjoyable to watch, made me cry again, but it's just so simple that it felt a little wrong to put this over movies that were doing more. This movie looks beautiful. It is very touching. It's just like a hangout movie. It's just, look at these animals like going on the boat after the big flood, seeing all this magical stuff and like thinking about life. Like, it's just like very like fun and wholesome and sweet. And to finally finish it all off with the top 4. At number 4, we have Challengers. This was one of the best movies of the entire year. Just an absolute blast. It is upbeat, it is sexually charged, it is exciting, and it keeps that energy and that momentum and that oomph all the way through the entire movie. Like, bruh, are you kidding me? When I saw that scene in the theater, when I saw him bring that ball up to the racket, I literally, like, shouted in the theater. I was like, no. It was exhilarating. It was actually, like, one of the most, like, like, heart-pounding, like, well-written, just, like, well-done, like, it just hits. It's so good. There were just so many, like, scenes in this that, like, genuinely, you just want to, like, bite your finger. Like, you're just like, damn. Yeah, like, it's indescribable. Like, it's just so hot. It reveals new information at, like, the perfect times to, like, update and recontextualize everything that's happened and to, like, put you into this totally new spot. One of the best scores of the year, I would say second best, but I can totally respect it being first. I listen to it all the time, just, like, outside of watching the movie. It's just, like, the kind of music I like to listen to. So at number 3, we have Sing Sing. This movie is just, like, a beautiful ode to art and to the human experience and to the ability to, like, endure and like focus on things that provide light in our lives even when we're surrounded by what seems like nothing other than darkness. This is a beautiful movie about how art can heal and can help you process your emotions and can help you connect with other people and work on your worldview and on your self-image. It's just like, it so beautifully captures that message. Better than most movies that try to capture that message can and do. It is amazingly well acted. Coleman Domingo absolutely kills it. Just a beautiful character who is so, like, connected to himself and so sympathetic. And then a huge thing was that it's based off the real Sing Sing Correctional Facility, and most of the cast members in this movie were actual members of Sing Sing and came into this film with that experience and with that worldview. And, like, that is just such a beautiful story to see these people who actually got to use this art in a way to reform themselves almost. Like, seeing people who actually went through that delivering these performances was just so touching and, like, impactful. This is just, like, a very intricate, very detailed, very, like, mature film that's, like, dealing with all of these very heavy issues but actually gives them the weight that they deserve and gives these people the nuance that they deserve. It's a movie that really, like, takes the chance to, like, focus on these prisoners as people and focus on their needs and the corruption and the impracticality of the justice system and the way that it currently works. At number 2, we have The Brutalist. So obviously, if you watched the review that I did for The Brutalist, you would have already known this movie was flirting around that top 1 through 4 territory. I ultimately ended up putting it at number 2. The first half of this film, before the intermission, is still the best movie of 2024. Like, if that was its own thing, that would be number 1. It was so well directed, so cohesive, so beautifully shot. Best score of the year, like, just beat out challengers. I think Adrian Brody deserves that Oscar. Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce were also incredible. And then, as I've had a chance to kind of sit and think on the second half, I still have my issues with it. I think it's a little abstract. I think it's a little misery porny, for lack of a better word. But ultimately, like, it just has so much going for it that even despite my problems with it, it just catapults right into this number 2 spot. And now, at our number 1 movie, we have, pretty obviously, if you've noticed what hasn't been here, Dune 2. Yes, maybe a very boring answer, but still, Dune 2 is pretty easily my favorite movie of 2024 still. This is my favorite movie of the year, ultimately, because it feels like the movie that genuinely pushed the art form forward the most, while still also being, like, the most entertaining movie of the year. This is a movie that fully respects and understands and utilizes the entire capabilities of the just overall art form of film. Like, it's not just really well directed and well written and well shot and well edited with amazing production design and costume design and score and sound design. Like, it's all of those things all taken with this meticulous, intricate care to truly try and craft a one-of-a-kind necessary movie. Like, it just does everything so well. Like, if there was one movie that I told people they had to see from this year, it's Dune 2. This is a movie that truly is already and will continue to be, like, iconic. This is a future classic. This is going to be talked about in the same vein as, like, a Lord of the Rings or an original Star Wars. Like, it is that level of quality and of world building, and it's just that well made. Like, it truly is another world that you're being transported to for 2.5 hours to just live in and enjoy and experience. It's the most technically well-crafted of the year, as I talked about, in terms of its score and cinematography and sound design and the look of everything. It's also one of the best of the year in terms of its story. Like, I know this is obviously an adaptation, but it takes so much from the source material and creates a very interesting, very thought-provoking, very engaging, very serious movie. Like, it doesn't just lean on its action set pieces. It's also a very, like, emotionally and thematically rich movie that makes you think. And it's all just so tightly woven together by one of our greatest working directors, and someone who I think already and definitely by the end of his career will be considered one of the greatest directors of all time. Denis Villeneuve, just truly so, like, careful and thoughtful and intelligent with his craft. This is just exactly what a big blockbuster should be, and that's why it is my number one movie of 2024. Let's hit it with the outro. That does it for my list of my favorite movies of 2024. Again, sorry that it was a little bit late. I just wanted a chance to see everything. I hope that's okay with y'all. I really hope you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for what I have coming out next. I'm going to have a new Micro Budget Mondays up hopefully this Monday, if not next Monday. I'm sorry that I haven't been uploading as much as I would have liked, but yeah, that's coming out soon, as well as I think I'll do a January recap. Yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. So if you could leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.